Good afternoon. My name is Subha Balisetti, and I'm Program Manager and Samhaj South Asian Mental Health Awareness in Jersey Program Coordinator at NAMI New Jersey. We have Nelly Barrero, our NAMI Spaniel Statewide Program Coordinator, who will be our producer today. And we are going to have Jenny Mai joining pretty soon, our Chinese American Mental Health Awareness Program Cam Hub coordinator, who will be monitoring the Q&A today. And we also have our Chief Program Officer, Jennifer Hughes, here with us today. And thank you so much to all the panelists for being here. Welcome to NAMI New Jersey's June Multicultural Conversation, Men as Caregivers, the impact on their mental health and how to support them. NAMI New Jersey is committed to serving New Jersey's most diverse communities. We represent the interest of all people affected by mental health conditions, regardless of their age, gender, race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, ability, language, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, or gender identity. With these multicultural conversations, we aim to bring more awareness to the relationship between mental health and culture. Often when we talk about caregivers, who comes to mind? Yes, most of the time it was women because of the traditional gender roles and also the stereotypical characterization of women being nurturing and male being authoritative in some cultures. Times are changing and more male figures are becoming caregivers, and it's time to focus on how to support them from the stressors of caregiving. On this Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, we are focusing on male caregivers and the effect that caregiving has on their mental health and how we support them. Today, we have three panelists who are all NAMI New Jersey Samhaj members. They are volunteers and active participants in NAMI New Jersey. They all, even though they all belong to the same multicultural program, Samhaj, their experiences are quite different and challenges are also different. Paranta Pandya is a caregiver as well as a mental health professional. So he is looking at both sides of the lens. Lakshman Kanduri is a caregiver to a loved one who is an adult with mental illness. Their mental health journey started with their loved one at the age of around 90. Sesha Balisetti, who is a caregiver for a young adult with multiple disabilities, including mental illness, and their caregiving experiences are from the time their child was born. So the panelists will be sharing their personal experiences in today's discussion. And I truly appreciate you all being here today. Welcome to all our panelists. I am going to ask you to introduce yourself as part of this first question from me. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role as a caregiver, and Parantap, in your case, and also as a mental health professional. Please go ahead, Parantap.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. This is a trailblazer. This is first time addressing men as caregivers and how it impacts the wellness and recovery of the mentally ill. I am so glad that Sobha, you and the entire NAMI staff have started a dialogue and initiated a conversation about men as caregivers, because this is a very underutilized part of the mental health recovery system. My name is Parantap. I work as a psychiatric screener for Trinitas Hospital. So I see people in crisis. I've been doing that for over 22 years. My total work as a clinician has been over 34 years in the US. And I work full-time as an intensive family support services clinician for Union County. I've been doing that full-time for 17 years. Part-time I did for 2 years, so totally 19 years. So I live and breathe what is serious and persistent mental illness, how it impacts families from the time of crisis all the way up to wellness and recovery. And I have seen a lot of success stories, which makes me very hopeful. So, in my participation in intensive family support services, I have seen groups, and groups change, groups evolve. Sometimes there are 15, 20, sometimes 25. But one thing I've seen consistent is that the attendance of participants in learning about mental health issues and how to cope with their loved one, there is a disproportionate amount of women and a little underutilized number of men. So, statistically speaking, New Jersey in 1955 had 55,000 chronic mentally ill. They were in asylums like Hagedorn, Greystone, Marlborough, and Trenton State Psychiatric Hospital. With the deinstitutionalization and early intervention and new medications, asylums are closed. There are only two now, that is Trenton and Greystone, and the total census is between 300 to 700. With the change in demographics of New Jersey, the increase in population, the early intervention and detection of mental health issues, now the demographic is easily over 110,000 people with chronic mental illness live in the communities. So these are our neighbors, our sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, parents. They're all around us. And we as a community and society have a challenge how we help them towards wellness and recovery, because they are not going away anywhere. There are no institutions that they can be put and locked up. It is actually against their civil liberties to be treated in such a harsh way. So the community-based model of wellness and recovery is the best way to go about it. And in the community-based model, 40 to 60% of people with mental illness live with families. So just think about it, 100,000, 40 to 60, we're talking 40 to 60,000 folks living at home with parents, with a mom or, single mom, dad. But generally speaking, each person with mental health issue impacts at least one to two or maybe more people. So these are their environment. This is the context in which the mentally ill person gets better. That context needs to be empowered. And for that, the state of New Jersey is funding intensive family support services in like 21 counties. And you can just Google NAMI NJ IFSS and the whole list will come up. And the role of intensive family support services to inform, educate, empower, provide advocacy, assist with navigation, and sort of maneuvering through the treatment process. So, why are we talking about men as caregivers? Because there is a pattern that if you visit any psychiatric hospital during visiting hours and you see the line that forms outside, count how many men are there, how many women are there. Go to any NAMI, New Jersey, or Mental Health Association or intensive family support services groups, see how many men are there, how many women are there. There are men, but the ratio and the percentage is less. The involvement of women is more. So my goal today is to identify this as a social issue, and a solution is to not pathologize the men, but to understand them, not to take away their power, but to empower them and to provide them with tools, with skills and resources and techniques for the other family members to engage the men to participate in the wellness and recovery of their loved one in a way that is efficient, in a way that is kind of building a coalition, a teamwork of family members who all pull in the same direction together. And that ultimately benefits the consumer and it ultimately benefits the family. In my journey as the caregiver, I have learned a lot. If I can say that I'm an example of what not to do, I would probably get an award. But I humbled myself, and with humility, I turned to therapists to learn how to support my family members. And I realized that I have certain barriers as a man, as a South Asian man, to see things with a certain lens and having a little hard time in acknowledging my shortcomings and my own blind spots. Over a period of years, I learned, and as a result, I managed to develop a better relationship with my loved one, and we can work together as a team. In my role as a clinician, I have seen sometimes men are pathologized, Sometimes men are just not supported, and sometimes men are just allowed to dominate. All three are not healthy. What I am recommending is a kind of a fair and balanced approach. If somebody is not being actively involved in their loved one's treatment or in supporting the loved one in a therapeutic way, let's try to understand what are the barriers, what are their blocks, what kind of a cultural background they have, what was their upbringing, and what is getting in the way. I don't doubt their love for their child. I don't doubt their love for their loved one. But sometimes it is the mental health system that is discouraging. Sometimes it is the lack of understanding of the illness and the role that a family member can play. Sometimes somebody needs to hold their hand and teach them what is being firm and what is being harsh punishing. There is a difference. Limit setting and boundary setting is okay, but being over the top is not therapeutic. For that, you need somebody to support them. Sometimes it is their family members who are women who can support them. Sometimes it is programs like IFSS and NAMI who can support them. Their existence, their power, their presence, their contribution cannot be denied. And right now we have a challenge. People with serious and persistent illness tend to have many relapses, rehospitalization, discontinuing medications. So this is a hypothesis. Is it possible that there are family members who are underutilized? And can we empower them, teach them, and sort of bring them on board with this recovery, wellness and recovery project? Perhaps their participation can become the game changer. Imagine a family that is informed, educated, empowered, and a good advocate for their loved one. They wouldn't need to depend on the institutions and the mental health system and crisis and mobile, but perhaps they could learn to problem solve before it reaches kind of a breaking point. And I hope today's discussion leaves people with some critical information that they can use as a resource, that if they need to use it or somebody they know can benefit from, then they can have a takeaway and an application to it. So thank you so much.
Super, Antap. Lakshman, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your role as a caregiver for your loved one?
Yeah, sorry. First, I want to thank all of you for your participation, and thinking of this topic is timely and necessary because of the problems that Farantap mentioned earlier. And in addition to that, I also want to say that the male or dominance, I would say, or patriarchal nature of the society is not just with the Asian Americans or Asian Indians. It's throughout. It's worldwide. From what I hear from the statistics that Prantap was talking about, number of male participants versus female participants in the various activities of NAMI or otherwise, IFSS, etc. So therefore, in general, male are members of the society. Sorry, male members of the society are told that that they are responsible for family care, although it doesn't happen that way. Most often, it is the responsibility falls on the better half, on the wife in most of the families, barring a few. Okay. In my case, I'm lucky to, I wouldn't say lucky to, I have more opportunities to work from home. Therefore, that responsibility fell on me. And also by nature, and I'm, the compassion, levels of compassion is different from one individual to the other. So in my case, it happens to be, I take major responsibility in that sense. Because of lack of availability of more time compared to my wife, and also the nature is different. Each person handles differently the emotional, the psychological aspects. So from that perspective, so I'm dealing with a 26-year-old son who is going through his difficulties for the last 4 years, and I'm trying to learn by participating in NAMI activities and the IFSS. like everybody is aware of by now. Okay, and hopefully this discussion will bring forth more male participation, as Parantap mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Sesha, would you like to chime in?
Absolutely. Well, it's great to be part of the panel. Thank you for NAMI for putting this together, and Samaj. So as a form of introduction, I, along with my wife and daughter, am a caregiver for a 24-year younger adult son with complex health and mental health challenges. Our son is on autism spectrum with a diagnosis on the mental health side that includes mood disorder, psychosis, OCD, anxiety, and developmental disabilities. Depending on the time and day, I play several roles in my day-to-day interactions with him, ranging from being a dad, friend, companion, mentor, therapist, and all the way to comfort him by listening to him and supporting him as he goes through various emotions and ups and downs. Now, while there are some predictable patterns, there is really no typical day, right? So the two traits that I've learned in 24 years of being a dad with that complex mental health and other physical health dynamics is maintain absolute levels of flexibility and patience, and also acknowledging and connecting with his fears and anxieties as a caregiver, right? Those are the two very important things that taught me to be good at in my role. Now, this topic is near and dear to me, and very quickly as our son grew up, obviously the challenges we had when he was, birth to 3 and K to 12 are quite different than the challenges we're dealing with as a 24-year-old young adult. Especially with the social anxieties and limited abilities to make friendships, I became more than a dad, right? I became his friend and his companion, and his buddy in many cases. So we do a lot of things together. I'm going to honestly admit here, I'm not a big visual arts lover, but he is. And guess what? Now I am. So we go to the museums together. It's connecting with him, on many of those aspects. That's what builds the bond. That's what builds the trust. And I feel like, men and being a dad has that unique ability to connect with him. And it is so important for his growth and development, especially at this stage. So I'm so glad we're talking about this topic, and I have the opportunity to share my personal experiences, being part of my son's life. Thank you.
You all. And looks like between three of you, there is 50 plus years of caregiving experience. And I'm grateful you guys are here today. And now my next question is going to be, Parantap, it's for you. Why and how to engage male family members as caregivers? And how does the stigma and pressures of stereotypical gender roles discourage men from caregiving roles?
So I can share my personal journey. My loved one was diagnosed in 2015. So we're talking 9 years. And me being a professional, I thought I have paid my dues. I should not have a loved one with mental health issues because I do this for a living. But 1 out of 5 has mental illness, and that statistics doesn't spare anyone. So yeah, I became, my family, my loved one became 1 out of that 5 that day. And initially I was a single dad. So as a single dad, learning how to work with your loved one who's a female is a whole different journey itself. You got to be very self-aware and conscious of your physical size. You got to be very self-aware and conscious of your voice. And there is a different tact and a way to talk to a daughter versus a son. Now you add to it a layer of mental health issues. It's a whole different ball game. Number one, anxiety runs deep. You got to be very careful how you talk, how you look, what kind of posture you have, and how you interact with them. Because with any mental illness, anxiety is like a companion, it's always there. You have to be in that state of empathy, understanding, compassion, support, and seeing the world through their eyes. And I was horrible at it in the beginning. I thought it is easy, it is quick, it is fast. I thought I had a chip on my shoulder because I work in this field. So I can go to emergency rooms, inpatient treatment, outpatient therapists, psychiatrists, and I can get things done. Two things happened. One is that my effectiveness and competency as a clinician, when I'm not emotionally engaged, is very different. I'm objective and I'm able to remove myself and read the room right, read the person right, and respond appropriately. When I'm emotionally engaged and I'm emotionally connected, I have so much at stake, I'm very biased. I will only see what I want to see. So I had to deal with my own denial. It hurts to see somebody who you love so much not do well. So what do? You deny it, you downplay it, you put a spin, you put a twist, you make something else a reason. So in spite of my background of education and work in this field, I was at the bottom and I had to work my way up. Fortunately, I had family members, friends, colleagues, bosses, and some good therapists who helped me understand my role and how I can be better at it. And I opened myself to learning. It was very humbling. One of the barrier we as men have is, and I'm one of those, that if I'm driving and I can't find a place, I will not stop and ask for directions. I will keep driving. Because for me to stop and ask for direction is a sign of weakness, is a sign of like admitting defeat, and I will not be defeated. Now, the same part of brain that makes that decision that I don't need to ask anyone and I don't need to listen to anyone is going to apply in all areas of my life. So, of course, either we tend to read it the way we want to read it and then we run with it, or we shut down. And I have gone through all the stages of wanting to avoid, wanting to not believe it, wanting to not face it. And the biggest challenge was I had to be malleable, flexible, adaptable, adjustable to this new reality. This person who used to understand me speak in a certain language with a certain tone, with a certain logic, now doesn't understand that anymore. So I had to switch to how can they receive information in a way that worked for them and worked for me. So I had to change my communication style. I had to shift my expectations. For every man, it's like our child, our loved one is our prize, is our trophy. They achieve, like, parents talk about my son scored a goal, he scored, played basketball and he's a winner, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly from that to admit that now they have limitations. Now they cannot do the things they used to do. And to reduce expectations in order to meet their needs was a journey. To tolerate certain behaviors which just come with this condition was also a journey. It is so easy to get frustrated, upset, and angry, but what we do is we damage the relationship. When we damage the relationship with our loved one by being angry or by being frustrated and annoyed over something that they don't have control, we are actually antagonizing them. We are actually pushing them away and we are breaking the relationship. Next thing, if you have something valuable to say, they're not going to listen to you because you are not bonding and attaching in a positive way, which was a journey for me. And I, over a period of time, opened myself to learning from Dr. Javier Amador. I met him personally. He has written this book called I'm Not Sick, I Don't Need Help. And I learned about motivational techniques and how to create partnership. I, of course, connected with a lot of my clients. I mean, the irony of this is I go to work, I talk to my clients, and then I listen to them. And I'm like, wow, I can use this. Oh my God, you did this. This is new. This is creative. and creating a bag of tricks in which on any given day you may have to pull a different tool out and use is the name of the game, which I learned over a period of few years. Over this time, I also got to know my loved one as somebody who is trying. And it is very difficult to be where they are, coping with medications, coping with different providers, coping with a fragmented mental health system where sometimes right hand doesn't know what left hand is doing. And they're doing the best they can under the circumstances. And when I stopped provoking them by making demands which are unrealistic, they started feeling safe. When they felt safe that I'm not going to be critical of them, I am not going to make them feel bad. They already feel bad. They don't need me to burden them more. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed, the quality of interaction and the relationship changed. And we started working together towards a common goal that is for the loved one to have a decent quality of life. As a result, my loved one over a period of 9 years was able to move out of home, have own apartment, live independently, and for the most part do quite well functioning. We still have miles to go, but my desire is that every parent, particularly the men, don't shy away from admitting, I don't know how to do this. When our children are born, like the movie Lion King, holding Simba on top of the mountain, that you're going to be the Lion King, we don't say you're going to be a schizophrenic one day, a bipolar, substance abuser, and you'll be in a psych hospital. You know what I'm saying? This is not our dream. This is not what we wanted. This is what you were never prepared for. So imagine you just picked out of the street and put on a Broadway show and said, that's it. You're going to be performing in Hamilton. How are you going to perform in Hamilton? You know what I'm saying? You need to have a script. You need to have rehearsals. You need to have training. And what I'm saying is allow yourself to be ignorant, because when you become ignorant, and appreciate your naivety, then you become open to learning and recognize this is an art. Just like you cannot just get up and become a concert pianist or start playing guitar like, a rock star. You have to learn, you have to practice, you have to rehearse and give yourself that. It doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make you incompetent, it doesn't make you less of a man. And trust me, if you open yourself to learning and growing, your woman will find you more attractive. This is what women have told me, that I appreciate my man more. I appreciate my father more, that he's willing to listen, he's willing to learn, he's willing to grow. And please have this as a takeaway that reading books, watching YouTube videos, learning about the illness, learning about what it does, and learning about how some people who are called peer advocates, consumers who now help other people, what was their journey like? How did they get from one place to another? And then you can use all this information to sort of convince your loved one to get on the journey of wellness and recovery. I'm a living example that you could be a failure, but then you can be successful too. So, I mean, if anybody's in Union County, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at IFSS Union. I have a private practice also. You can Google my name. It shows up. I'll be happy to work with anyone who's kind of looking to activate a dormant family member and understand what is getting in the way. Is it their cultural background or family upbringing? Or is it how the family dynamics is working, the dynamic between the couple, the dynamic between family members, and what needs to be explored, modified, and changed? Recovery is possible. There's a lot of hope out there. And I certainly hope to see you guys in a better place. The fact that you are here means there is something that you are connecting with this topic. So take it to the next level, use this to grow.
Thank you, Parantap. Thank you for the valuable tools that you gave our attendees on how to engage and connect with our loved ones, and also about lowering the expectations and being vulnerable, right? To make that connection. Thank you. And now this is for Sesha and Lakshman. As a caregiver, how do you engage in making decisions around your family to make sure everyone's needs are met?
Lakshman, you want to start or you want me to?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think this is something that every family goes through, right? In our case, when our son was born, we came to know of his complex medical needs, we made the very difficult decision of one of us becoming a full-time caregiver for him, while the other person focuses on career and supporting the family as the primary breadwinner. So I became the breadwinner while my wife focused on him as a full-time caregiver. Now, even with that split of the roles, I know my role as a dad for him is very important, and my deep involvement with his growing up and dealing with the challenges is also absolutely critical. One of the primary lessons for me along this journey was balancing a challenging career and the role as a dad, and be there for him as he is growing up, as he's dealing with the challenges, all of that, right? There is absolutely no substitute for that. You could have a family and a friend support. All of those are important, but the role that you play, as the man, as the dad, there's no one else who can replicate that role. That was my personal experience. And there's a lot of learning we had to go through in this process. Like Parantap was saying, nobody is born an expert in this area. You kind of fall and you learn. You get up and you improve yourself and become a better person. And for one example, when he was very young and he was going through a lot of surgeries, I was with my daughter who is neurotypical. That's the other balancing act, right? When you have other children, you also need to make sure that they are well cared for, well taken care of. So this is a teamwork at the end of the day. It's all about getting that teamwork right and realizing that the role that you play as a dad or as a man is absolutely critical in that composition of the team. There's no substitute for that. So that is one thing that became more and more prominent as he's getting older, right? So that's when he started realizing, how come I don't have as many friends? How come I cannot do as much of the social activities? Then some of the guilt sets in, and that's where he looks to you, can I go to YMCA with you? Can I go to this activity with you? While I do a lot of things with mom, but, you as a dad, it's a very important role model for them. So that was, I think, is the balancing act for me. And of course, COVID became a blessing in one way because we all have less commutes and a lot more time working home. And that gave us an opportunity to spend more time, in my case, with him. And now I can't even think of going back to, traveling multiple days because it's such an integral part of what he and I do on a day-to-day basis. That really became a key part of where he is today. So I think that's part of my lessons is that, playing that role as a dad and balancing the needs of the family and being part of the team are some of the key learnings in my personal experiences.
Lakshman?
Yeah, wonderfully said. And I completely agree with both the viewpoints, Parantap's and Sesha's viewpoints, because I completely, I'm in the same boat, but in a little different way, because like I said, in my case, my son started to develop these problems in his 19 to 20 years. That's the typical range. The second problem is mental illnesses. If you really want to define, there's no perfect definition, nor there is a diagnosis, nor there is a perfect treatment. The complexities are enormous because of the nature of the problem, right? And if you want to look at the definition, this is a condition that affects person's thinking, feeling, mood, or behavior, and in more importantly, affects their ability to function or relate to others. So this is the most difficult part. And because there's no proper treatment, nor there is not enough help, like Parantap was explaining earlier, the number of beds hardly 300 to 400 when the need is in several thousands of patients. all these are adding to the complexity. And as a father, I really had to deal same issues like Seisha was dealing. I had to deal with a neurotypical person, sibling, with a person with a completely different problem, where they cannot function properly. And you have to give equal weightage in how you treat them. And the more important thing is, especially when the person does not accept the treatment, is the right thing for him, but he wouldn't accept that. So convincing is another big difficulty. And this could also lead to differences between the parents. And that's another act of balance where you have to convince the other half, which is sometimes it's not easy. So given the circumstances, it's best for both the parents to come to an understanding in providing the necessary care for your loved one. And this is what I'm learning, and it's a learning process. It's not the end of it. It's a long process, because another problem is this is not a curable type of disease. This will go on forever as long as you're alive or they're alive. So that's another difficult part of the situation that we're in.
Yeah, tag teaming is so important, right, in this type of situations. So the next question is going to be for all of you. As a caregiver, how are you affected by caregiving stressors? And also, is there any silver lining to your experiences or anything valuable you have gained from the difficulties you have experienced? Lakshman, would you like to go first?
I'm stretching my ability to think and find solutions. One way that I found is to join an organization such as NAMI and learn more from NAMI. That means trying to find more resources that are useful. At the same time, also volunteer the time to help for people who are in similar needs or facing similar problems. And I'm getting some solace out of it. And some of the measures that I follow are that I'm taking is to self-care. That's the most important thing, is self-care. And I'm not able to achieve to the extent that I would like to, but I just made a beginning. Joining a gym, for example, is one of them. And trying to cut down on extraneous things that I used to do before, and concentrate more on the problem at hand. I guess I could add as the time progresses. These are things I wanted to say right away. Yeah.
Thanks, Lakshman. Parantap, would you like to say something?
Yeah, so in terms of psychological strength, I would describe myself like the old kung fu movies in which the protagonist hero goes into a street fight, gets beaten up, and then goes into the woods and meets a Zen master, Buddhist monk or somebody who then teaches him, and he comes out as a samurai. In my case, the teachers were the families of mentally ill. Amazing. My clients, they inspire me, they teach me, they help me grow. My boss, Joyce Benz, if it wasn't for her, I would have probably done very, very poorly. I mean, to have a team like that, people you work with, people you work for, and then my family, my sister, my uncles, aunts, and friends. And I did not shy away from reaching out and seeking help. I did not let my ego get in the way that it makes me look weak, it makes me look bad, it makes me look needy, it makes me look like I don't have my act together. I accepted that I don't know how to do this. I don't have everything inbuilt in me to do this well. Every time I felt there's a roadblock, I talk to somebody, I ask somebody, and I will quote one of my clients. And this is a mom who is like, she's been through, a normal person would have a nervous breakdown. And one day when I was crashing, and I was not crashing, I was collapsing, I turned to her and I said, listen, I understand you are my client and I'm not supposed to be personal and asking you, but today I'm not at my best. How do I get through the day? And what she told me is that if you allow your emotions to take over, they will pull you down and they will make you fall apart. Don't do that. Keep a grip over your emotions. Like, ouch. But I said, excellent feedback. I took it. Then I spoke to another client who has a son with mental illness, etc. I'm like, how do you get through the day? Because I started working with families of mentally ill before my loved one was diagnosed. So I was on the other side. For me, it was a totally different experience. But after my loved one got sick and I couldn't do anything about it, the sheer helplessness of it and the whole process and journey. So this client told me that if you cannot handle it, just focus on one day at a time. And if you can't handle one day, focus on 1 hour at a time. And if you can't do 1 hour, 1 minute, and 1 second, that's all you can focus and do right now. And I started applying these things, these little nuggets, and what people discuss in groups. And then, NAMI has a lot of trainings. So for me, I get paid to learn what I need to apply in real life. That helps. I mean, I met with like some top-notch names in the field of family, working with a family of mentally ill. And my own curiosity, because I don't want to fail my child. I don't want to fail my loved one. I don't want to fail my family member when they need me. The most tender and gentle and emotionally touching moment was when my loved one told me, I would if I could. And I had tears in my eyes. That's true. They would if they could. If we can just remember that and see how we can help and support them at their pace in a way that is easier for them and it is more sustainable for them. We open up to more possibilities. There is lots of literature, there are a lot of YouTube videos, there are a lot of people to talk to. We all have to find our tribe. I found my tribe and I made peace with the fact that people who don't have a loved one with mental illness will not get it. I don't expect them to understand. I don't expect them to acknowledge, validate, empathize, have compassion, have support. I don't take it personally if they give me feedback or suggestions which are just absurd. I know they haven't lived through this experience. They don't know it. I don't hold it against them. But I also keep a parallel life. I try not to be consumed in my role as a caregiver. If, say, my life is a pizza pie and there are like 9 slices in it, maybe 2 slices are like caregiver. That's like my primary focus. You know what the rest of the other slices are? How I keep myself physically strong, empowered, healthy, psychologically stable, and my spirit resilient and strong in order to overcome this obstacle course. We're not out of the woods yet, I know it. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. So I need to be physically fit. So I exercise. If I can't exercise, I walk, I eat healthy, I try to sleep, meditate, rest, so that my brain, which is like a muscle that gets strained when it is overworked, gets rest so that it is creative, so that it doesn't, I don't get burnt out, I don't have a meltdown. And trust me, there have been times when I have been in my office and my client would look at me and ask me, how are you doing today? Are you okay? And I'm like, is it that obvious? They're like, yeah, it is that obvious. And I would tell them, can I get 5 minutes to tell you that, yes, it is rough, but I'm here. I am not good at everything all the time, but I'm here for you. And if I'm really like not in a shape to work or support my clients, I take that time out. And I say that it is unfair for my clients to not get the best of me when they meet me. But I'll tell you this, the energy that is generated between me and my clients and the people I work with it is so incredible that I come out feeling inspired by all of them. I am like in awe of what so many of them have been through, and they have still stuck by their loved one. They still fight the good fight for another day, calling doctors, looking for treatment, reading upon stuff, financially suffering. In some cases, people have had to break up marriages and leave their significant other because they're like, no, I'm not going to abandon my child. And I said, you know what, you inspire me, and I opened myself to learn from them. So to answer your question, if you are willing to learn, there is a wealth of information and treasure out there. Just don't get in your way. It's okay to open up and to learn and be and reciprocate. And if you can help others, like what Lakshman is doing, what Sesha is doing, it is like the Alcoholic Anonymous model, so to speak. When I keep preaching to my clients, take care of yourself, take vacation, go for a walk, just look at the sky, look at the pond, change your mental, change your headspace, because your headspace is all you got. If your headspace is not energized, if it is not alive and thriving, you are going to not deliver when your loved one needs your support or other family members need your support. And in teaching my clients, I had to apply. And same way, helping other people, you start sort of um, relearning, reapplying, remembering, and rehearsing what you are supposed to do. And I think it is a kind of a nice balance. I think we all can use this kind of a collaboration. I mean, on a given day, if I'm having a rough day, I feel comfortable calling Subha, Lakshman, or Seshan and say that, hey man, I'm just feeling it up to here. I don't know what to do. And recently, and I would like to mention the name, two people, particularly Brian, who's a clinician in intensive family support services in Somerset County. And then Renee, who is a clinician in Essex County. They are my sort of colleagues. I was falling apart one day. I called them. And that's when I saw how good they are at their craft and how polished they are. I was like, if you can visualize a tire that was deflated, 10 to 15 minutes talking to them, I was like a tire that is inflated. I'm like back to being myself. And having that humbleness and humility to reach out and get help and then applying it and then helping other people, you start becoming part of this movement, this growing movement where families help families, people help people. It is like invoking that humanity in each other. We uplift each other. And I have been, I'm just blessed and I'm very grateful. That's what I can say.
Thank you, Parantap. Sesha, would you like to share how
Sure.
caregiver? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Lakshman and Parantap touched on, lots of the key aspects of the, caregiver life, right? I would say in my case, the number one principle that I take it to the heart is as a caregiver, you need to remain strong physically, you need to remain strong mentally. That's what makes you a strong caregiver, right? If you're falling apart, then really you are adding to the stress of the individual who is going through a situation. So you need to be composed, you need to be informed, and you also need to remain fit, right? So those are some of my lessons that apply. And, thankfully, in my case, in Saket's case, because this is a situation we were dealing with from the childhood, even though there are different stages of that, but you develop networks with other parents. You develop networks with, providers. You almost like become a friends to them, right? So I'll give you one example. Saket loves to go to YMCA. I take him to a Zumba class. It's for young adults on the spectrum. Great energy, but there are 6 of the parents. We sit outside for 1 hour. This is like our therapy session, So we connect with each other, we share our experiences, and we kind of support each other. And there is almost, a situation in any given week, at least 1 or 2 of us are really down, because we're dealing with a crisis, right? Then the rest of the parents group come to the rescue. offering suggestions, offering guidance, offering advice, and going back to Parantap's analogy about you feel like an inflated tire again, you got pumped up, right? And then you realize that, wait a second, this is not the end of it. Yes, you are dealing with a situation, but it's not a cliff, right? You are going to get through it. And that's the support from friends, family, and other caregivers in sharing their experiences. It uplifts you and makes you a strong caregiver. And you end up doing the same thing for the others. When you are having a good day, when your child is having a good day, you share that positive spirit with the others. That makes them, very strong, right? So this is a give and take process. But lastly, I'm going to say there is a strong role for the family members to come together as a team, right? This is where it's a tag team effort. So we see that in our family is that we make sure, the other members of our family, they have a chance to take a break. What, today is your turn. Go and do something, go to a movie or go to a show or something like that. So we intentionally build those kind of breaks. And that, is very important, right? This is where, again, coming back to the topic of the conversation, you as a dad or you as a man are part of that support system. You're not excluded from that. You are part of that. And the role you play is extremely critical as a caregiver. So that's what my experience is. The stresses are part of life. There is going to be days you feel absolutely down, as if like, everything is falling apart. But having right support mechanisms, having right support from family and friends, you can get back up. You can become a strong caregiver, and you can continue to do what you do to support your loved one. So that has been my experience.
I just want to add another point to Sesha's eloquent, words. That is, in addition to the family, the second aspect is the extended family that I find from IFSS and NAMI and the friends that you made, that you could call them when, like such as I call you and Shubha or Paranta. That would be an extended family. So not only just the family, you also need the support of the extended family. And that's what I find from the names that Paranta was mentioning, Brian Rubenstein, Wendy, and all these other people from the IFSS, and people like Bina from NAMI, Shubha, and all these other people that I constantly, interact with, made a tremendous difference. And the meetings that they do, I try to attend as many as possible, but they have a meeting almost every other day, if not more often. So these are the things that people have to keep in their mind and make use of the community help.
Yeah. So if I can add to something both Lakshman and Trisha said about teamwork,
Right.
No man can claim that he loves his family, or he loves his wife, or he loves his son or daughter if they cannot see the impact of the consumer's behavior and stresses on rest of the family members. You cannot say that you love your family if you are apathetic, emotionally distant, and disconnected from the fallout of the consumer's behavior on different family members. Some family members, many times moms, they tend to take it all upon themselves. Sometimes the moms need to be taught to kind of, can you back off a bit? Because they are like, I got this. It's a control issue, an anxiety issue. And sometimes it is convenient for the men to kind of step back a bit. Oh, she's got it. What happens is a lot of these people who are dealing with chronic stress and the emotional toll that it takes on them develop depression, anxiety. And I know people personally who started taking blood pressure medications, and then it increased from 1 to 2 to 3, and then ended up having a stroke. So this is something that will require learning to work together as a team. You may disagree on other areas of life, but in this area, how to have a vision for your loved one to, and what is the goal, and how can we walk together in this journey and sort of make it easy on everyone is very important. You can't be in two different places. And the second thing is we have to learn how to be more sensitive. We as men tend to think that we are supposed to be hunters and gatherers, or if somebody says something about my family, I'll go out and fight. How dare you say this or say that? We kind of get fired up in certain areas. But what is more required is sensitivity, compassion, tenderness, gentleness, tuning in, attuning and matching frequency, what this person could be going through. Everything doesn't need to be spelled out. Everything doesn't need to be overtly communicated. You need to be able to see the signs of fatigue, tiredness, feeling hurt, feeling helpless, feeling angry, resentful. And we need to figure a way out of supporting each other. And it could be one person saying, I got you. Why don't you take a break for next 24 hours or next few hours? And that is where the role of both of them is needed to balance this out. And this also applies to those couples which are not together. It doesn't matter that you are divorced. You're still a parent and you have an obligation. And sometimes you need to hold men's feet to the fire and say that, this is part of your job as a parent. You can't shy away from this. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong in calling somebody out and at the same time supporting somebody who is struggling with it. And for us as men, we need to hold each other accountable. We need to talk to each other and say that, why don't you call me when you're hurting? Or why don't you go get help? Why don't you talk to somebody? It is not a weakness to have emotions and feelings. It makes you more complete as a human being, and you need to wear it as a badge of honor. If you shed tears, you got my respect. You are man enough to cry.
Paranthap, there are some questions from attendees, so I'm going to switch to attendees' questions. The first one is, Sesha spoke about this briefly in his intro. Can you tell us about any division of responsibility that exists within your household and how they have perhaps changed over time as your loved ones have grown? Sesha?
Yeah, I think I touched on that, right? Again, some of the decisions we had to make early on when you have two demanding careers, at least until he got to a stage and he's more settled in, we had to make that difficult choice. So, and at a different stage in his life, that changed, right? So this is where the role of the caregivers within the family, in my mind, is not constant, right? It's a variable. So you have to adjust the role of the members that are caring for an individual depending on the complexity, depending on the progress that he or she is making. I think, again, the flexibility and patience are the two most important traits. As you kind of readjust it's almost like when you are playing a team sport, you kind of regroup and readjust. So that, I think, is probably the best analogy I can say is you have to kind of rethink the strategy. And then sometimes you might say, oh, you know what? I took the role as the breadwinner. Now it's time to switch the roles, right? So I think all of that need to be part of the dialogue, in my view.
The next one is, what allowed each of you to overcome the stigma of men as caregivers? How can we help other men who also hold the stigma, especially when children are younger and the expectations of raising them is entirely on the mother? Would like to take this, Parantap?
Yeah, I think you cannot have a fixed and a rigid position on anything. Your role, what you do is like, say, for moms, it is very easy to be physically comforting, to hold their child, to hug them, to wipe their tears. And feed them, all those things. And these are not things that we as men grew up as something that comes easy to us, but we have to, because that's what is needed. There are so many things where we will have to adapt and meet the needs of our loved one. And it is uncomfortable. I mean, it is very characteristic in South Asian cultures, at least, that we don't wake up every morning asking ourselves, what do I want? We wake up asking, what does our family want? That part is good. But the part that is not good is we are also socially very self-conscious. What will people think about us? Log kya kahenge? And how does it matter? How does it matter? I want to challenge that. How does it matter what do people think about us? How they view us? They are not in your shoes. They are not in your loved one's shoes, and their approval is not needed. Me personally, I have a policy. If anybody asks me questions about how is my loved one doing, if that person has not offered to help and is not connected to me in that way, I look into their eyes and I say very confidently, you haven't earned that privilege to be part of my inner circle and to know my ups and downs. The day you roll up your sleeves and say, how can I help? That day I will answer you that question. So my question, my answer is, don't put them as if they are one step above us. Society, people, neighbors, relatives, family members, as if we are supposed to seek their approval or follow the norm and be part of the herd. Ours is a unique story. Ours is a unique family dynamic, and ours is a very unique role. And if we can make peace with it, accept it, and do it with good intention and excellence, people will come around and they will appreciate it. And I'll tell you, I've seen so many dads like combing hair of their little girls. I have seen dads being emotional and talking to their loved one in a family session at and go to meetings for NAMI, IFSS, and passionately talk to providers. So many things, which is not what they were born to do, but that's what that was required of them at that time. They rose to the occasion, and it definitely gave results. And the best part is their loved one saw that this person will go the extra mile, will change, adapt, and adjust to meet my needs. And collectively, as a family, they rise and they progress. And I've seen a lot of success stories. So I can say this with emphatic confidence that put you and your family first. Don't worry about the stigma and people. They will change. They will learn to appreciate you and they will learn to follow you.
Thank you, Paranta. The next question is, I hope I am understanding this question properly. How does one parent assist another parent in the middle of a breakdown in front of the child? So I'm understanding one of the parent has mental illness. They are going through some crisis situation. And how do you disguise the breakdown from the child? So that's the question. Please tell me if I'm understanding right.
Yeah, no, I think
That's what it is, right? Yeah.
yeah, I got it. It is a dilemma. You don't want your significant other to be presented to the children as if they are sick, as if they are unwell, or say, I think symptomatic. At the same time, the impact of your significant other's behavior on the children is traumatic. It can damage, it can scare, it can leave them for years disturbed. And the dilemma of the well parent is damn if I do, damn if I don't. First of all, hats off to you for being that well parent. It is like, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock landed on us. You are now being put in a position where you need to upgrade your skill set as a parent and as a spouse. My suggestion, take charge. Don't feel like you need to play second fiddle to the person with mental illness or second fiddle to the children. You are the stable, solid person there. Take charge, be confident, separate the two. Children don't need to see a parent acting like that. If that parent doesn't get it, get authorities involved. It could be the local police, it could be DCPNP, it could be friends, family, relatives, and take a stand that my child doesn't need to witness this behavior. Then have a standard of what a parent's behavior is expected to be. You can have a bad day, but you cannot be symptomatic to a point that a child is going to be traumatized. That parent should be nowhere near that child. They need to be somewhere where they can get stabilized first and then gradually be reintroduced to the children through what is called family reconciliation therapy, in which the impact of the parent's behavior is processed with the parent by the child. The therapist facilitates this conversation. Then there is a new trust building. And after that, they are under observation, spending time together, and then weekends and so on and so forth. No, because you are a parent doesn't give you an automatic right to be symptomatic, unstable, and your significant other has to put up with it and the children have to put up with it. That is wrong. And the well parent has to push back, has to set limits, boundaries, and fight back for the sake of the children.
The next question is, can you talk about how to help convince dads or other older family members that may be stubborn to looking for resources and just thinking mental illness can be fixed if the child is with family and living at home?
I can start, and Parantap and Lakshman can chime in on this. Look, this is another dynamic we deal with, especially in the ethnic communities, is accepting the fact and accepting the reality, right? We've seen even sometimes medical professionals in these communities say, oh, I can help you in such a way that you're not going to have an autistic child. I mean, it's a complete, against the reality and what we have learned so far, right? So this is the same dynamic here, is have the conversations and have the educational discussions, introduce them to the other parents and the communities like NAMI, IFSS, broaden their perspective, broaden their mind. It is not anybody's fault that either you or your family member is going through a physical or a mental health dynamic, right? Accepting the reality is number one thing. And unfortunate, fact is, that's not the case, right? Many people don't. They're going to say, oh, you know what? When I have a headache, I take a Tylenol, that goes down. Now, why can't the same thing happen with the mental health? Give me more medicines, right? And I want this to be instantly cured, so I can move on, or my loved one can move on. It's not like that, right? A mental health dynamic, especially in our case, we've been dealing with this for 24 years. There is no instant medicine. There is no instant, addressing of the challenge. This is a journey, right? The journey has ups and downs. But the key part to remember is you as a caregiver need to not only be educated about it, but also be well informed about it. Come out of your stereotypes, come out of your boxed thinking in this area, and talk to other parents, listen to experts, broaden your horizon. I think that's very important in my mind.
Good luck, Lakshman, I'll go after you.
Yeah, I just want to add one more complexity here. Even though, in spite of your good intentions and you want to learn, educate yourself, still there's not much you can do about it because of the nature of the problem. So therefore, even though if you realize that there's a problem, the actual person is not ready to listen to the situation and follow up with the medication. Even if they accept the therapy or the medication, it may or may not work because there is no certainty in terms of treatment. So there's added complexities with this problem. So you have to keep that in mind, and you have to constantly be at the and advocate the 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 lacunas, the drawbacks, or the donut holes that are there in the existing system, to address those issues with the advocating institutions like NAMI or some other, or your local legislators. We have to fight, in getting the appropriate help when it is needed. Right now, we don't have that. So that's one thing I uh, feel from my heart, that we all, as the citizens, we have to strive for this, because 1 out of 5 of us are struggling through this, in addition to the rest of the 4 out of 5 also are undergoing the same um, issues, because of the 1 out of 5 that's undergoing the actual problem. I guess you understand what I'm trying to say here.
So let me answer
Prantha can add more to
yeah,
that.
so going on the same thread that you are, Lakshman, and Session is, this is actually, out of the whole program today, this is the best question, because this is what really blocks growth. This is what is the biggest barrier. And me coming from a South Asian family, I'll tell you, I have family members who will consult with an astrologer, palmist, herbalist, and go to temples and priests, but will not acknowledge mental illness and would not want to even broach that subject. Then they will try to circumvent it and try this, try that, whatnot. And we all have to be sensitive and compassionate to a person who is so blindsided, is because they love their loved ones so much. It is extremely painful for them to see reality. That's one. Number two, they have not grieved. So the 5 stages of grief: shock, disbelief, anger, negotiation, and anger, depression, negotiation, spiritual acceptance. They haven't been through that process, and it's a process. So they will fight you in the beginning. And at the prodromal stage of any illness, there is playing with substance abuse, marijuana, drugs, alcohol. There is high risk behavior by teenagers. There is sometimes being like a social recluse or distant. So many things, they give you like a mixed flavor that it is not known. You don't have a reference point because it hasn't happened before. And at that time, it could be either way. So, and that is where one family member would be like, wait a minute, I think our loved one has a mental health issue. And the other parent is thinking, no, it's not mental health. You know how teenagers are. You know how it is. You had a breakup with a boyfriend, girlfriend. They keep putting this spin, all that. So the well family member, I am talking to you. You are the head of the treatment team right now. You are the one who is in touch with reality. You are the one who has the strength over here to say, you know what, we got a problem. We're going to deal with it. We're going to face it. Excellent. Stay strong. That's my first thing. Second thing is, start being tactful and strategic. Don't get into a duel and a fight with them. You're not going to win it. What you say is that, okay, it could be. How about we set a time frame that for next 2 weeks, you will get Junior whatever they wanted, a car or join a class or skip school or do whatever. And that is the solution. Let's apply your way of doing things on one condition. If it doesn't work, then we go my way. We go to see a doctor. We go to get him hospitalized or her hospitalized, whatever. You get into that contract. And then you say that what is the outcome we are looking for? What is the target behavior? That if a person is excessively sleeping, they will not excessively sleep. If a person is talking to themselves, or if a person is having suicidal, homicidal thoughts, or aggression, violence, breaking things, there would be a cessation. It would come down, the intensity and frequency of it, to say the least, that your approach is working. If you cannot, and then you start documenting every day. If you are seeing the problem behavior as verbal abuse, physical abuse, acting out, use of drugs and alcohol, staying out at night, engaging in high risk behavior, make a list of it. Review it 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 10 days later, and say, all your approaches have been tried, but it is not resulting into any positive change. Therefore, now that 2 weeks, 1 month has passed, in fact, some things have gotten worse. I'm going to take charge. This is what needs to be done. And for that, if you're going to divorce me and leave me, so be it. If I have to choose between two of you, I will choose the one who needs help. And I'll tell you this why. I have seen plenty of cases where the parent didn't want to offend the other parent and they shied away from picking up the phone and calling. And the poor consumer ended up in jail because they were not in the right mind. They went to quick check. Somebody looked them the odd way. They punched the other person. Things happen. You got to protect the vulnerable, that is the mentally ill. And the family member who's getting in the way, to be honest with you, it wasn't a great marriage to begin with. Being real with you. If you can't see eye to eye on a healthcare related issue, you got bigger issues to deal with. Get a marriage counselor, get a couples therapist, but face it, address it, deal with it. It's not going to go away on its own.
Thank you, Paranta. There is one more question, and we have only 4 minutes left. So, can you please talk about how parents can be more empowering rather than enablers? So, Paranta, would you like to say a couple of sentences about it?
Yes. Number one, the term enabling is a pathologizing term. I don't agree with it. It was started in the substance abuse movement that so and so is using alcohol and the mother is enabling, wife is enabling, and they are, making them worse by giving them money, etc., whatnot. It doesn't apply in mental health. What is the well parent doing actually? The well parent is actually managing a difficult person, and they are managing with a goal to reduce symptoms to prevent something bad from happening. So don't make them feel bad. Just tell them that, okay, today you picked up after your loved one's dishes, or you gave them money to get marijuana because you're afraid that if they don't smoke marijuana, they'll get violent, they'll hit somebody, or etc. Is this going to help in wellness and recovery? Is this a long-term strategy? We need to work on a long-term strategy, and how can we lay out the steps that lead to this person improving independent living skills and self-reliance and responsibility, and eventually take care of themselves when you and me are not in this world. So I hope you and I can be on the same page. One day we won't be in this world, and we want to leave our loved one functioning. And how can we get to that goal? And then start kind of, setting up small steps that lead to it with the help of a professional. But don't fight, please. This is not a duel in which you want the last word. It's like this. If your loved one wins, you win. If your consumer son or daughter win, you win. So create kind of a collective positive energy and a goal.
Thank you. This is going to be kind of wrap up. So I'll give 1 minute for each one of you if you want to share anything to our audience. Lakshman, go ahead.
I just want to add, in the present day as multimedia, social media, all these pressures, and people, especially our youngsters, do not interact one-on-one, and they lost that touch. That puts additional pressure on the parents to act as friends with their children. It's very, very important because, like I said, they are not interacting with their peers like we used to do when we were young. And that's a very important social skill that we have to let them know. And if they still don't participate in that, at least the parents must, and the friends and relatives must act as their social companions. At least for as long as they learn the social skills, this is a must, in my opinion. And this is what I want to add to the conversation.
Thank you, Lakshman.
On my end, first of all, this is a great opportunity to share personal experiences. And I hope, if nothing else, we encouraged a few more men to be closer part of the life of their younger ones. But my parting message is, look for simple successes to celebrate, right? Because there are a lot of challenges going on in life, but these individuals, not only they need the empowerment, but encouragement and somebody being a cheerleader for them, right? In the midst of all the challenges, they show some absolute skill set, right? In our case, Saket is a masterful artist. Sometimes, the art that comes out of him is amazing art. And then we were just there at the Special Olympics last weekend. 5,000 people were there, 2,000 athletes, right? All of them have complex mental health, physical health challenges, but the celebration that you see every time they win something, right? Your disability is not the end of all, is not the limitation, right? So spread that message, be joyful, and celebrate their success. I think that's a very important thing. Then you send the right message to them also. So that's my message of today.
Thanks, Isha. Paranta.
Yeah. So this is a personal message to all the men out there. I know you are angry. I am angry too. Don't run away from your anger. Channelize your anger to create a systems change. If you're not angry, there is a problem. Allow yourself to be angry. Among the systems issues with the treatment of the mentally ill, why aren't hospitals, therapists, outpatient programs, all the system providers not having a family inclusive model of engaging family, interacting with family, connecting with family, and creating a collaborative treatment? Be angry about that and do something about it to get legislation passed. Join NAMI, join Mental Health Association. That is one. Number two, be angry at how dare hospitals, doctors, the hegemony, the unbalanced power they have. It is like absolute power absolutely corrupts. How dare they? Who do they think they are? Don't give them so much of power. Take power back. Develop WhatsApp group, Facebook groups, groups from NAMI, Intensive Family Support Services. Create a collective energy. Start a petition drive, change.org, whatever. If you have to go into a protest march, do a protest march, shout slogans. Channelize your anger and fight back. Nothing changes unless common man, people like you and me, start driving this. So stay connected with that anger, channelize it, make sure you become a powerful force of systems change. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists, and thank you to all the attendees for your questions, comments, and being here today. This demonstrates that we all have a shared interest, a passion for mental health, and breaking the stigma within our communities. I would like to give an extra special thanks to NAMI New Jersey Multicultural Program Leaders and Jan, our CPO, for joining us and helping with this webinar. We are one of the most diverse states in the country. And in order to meet the needs of our residents, the mental health services and resources we provide must also be diverse. Before we close this webinar, I would like to share with our participants that there are many resources available on NAMI New Jersey website and our multicultural programs, NAMI New Jersey, and advocacy and affiliate newsletters. So please subscribe for newsletters. You will get tons of information from there. You can also become a member if you are not already. With that being said, all our programs are free. You will be able to find wherever you are in the country. And we do have multiple affiliate groups, multiple multicultural groups, and statewide online groups continuously going on every week. So please do join to get the support. And we do have every quarter multicultural conversations just like today's. So please keep an eye open for those. And feel free to reach out to NAMI New Jersey for any support you might need. As a reminder, it would be appreciated if you could complete the survey that you will be getting either today or tomorrow via email so that we can incorporate your feedback for our future webinars. Thank you, Paranta, Lakshman, and Sesha for sharing this hour and a half with us today. And thank you everyone for joining us today. This concludes our webinar and gentle reminder that you are not alone. We are in this journey together. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Subha, for hosting. Thank you, Nami.
Super. Excellent.